then analyzing your feelings about it and actually coming to a proper conclusion.
A proper conclusion as opposed to like any other type of conclusion.
Okay, maybe proper wasn't the best word, but I'm also rushing through my words tonight.
I'm the Slavic girl. You can't be Russian too. Dennis, what do you think about the dichotomy of love and hate?
When I hear love, or I've been using love to describe everything that there is. So if love is all there is, then hate is not something that is different from love, but hate is something that is actually part of love as well. So yeah, so that's where my perspective goes. So I don't see it as something opposed to love, but I see it as something that is part of that universal love.
Absent of love. Is that possible?
Well, if love is what is, and then that is the expression, or that is where we move, where we find ourselves in, then like hate is part of that oneness, of that totality of things, and the dichotomy, that will be a limited view of that which is unlimited. So both of them exist. So for me it's not either one or the other one, but it's one as well as the other one. It just depends on how you look at it and from which perspective you observe. So if I observe from my personhood, if I just look from my personality, then it's like, oh, today I'm in love, and oh no, tomorrow I hate you, and then it's like two different things, and I identify with love, and it's the nice feeling, and then tomorrow I hate, oh no, I don't know, I love the sunshine, and I hate rain, and I hate the cold, and so if I look from personhood, then yeah, so there's this dichotomy, which is the duality, would be a different word, I think, which I would also use interchangeably. And however, if I take a different perspective, and I look at it that the sunshine and the rain, the love and the hate that I feel through my personality, through my limited being, to my limited perception, because I'm a limited being, in like acting in this role as human being in this world, then of course it's a limited view. But however, if I step out of that box and I look at it from a more holistic way, then I can observe that duality. So I can observe myself acting in the world of duality. And then what is that then? So that is something, that is a view, and it's a perspective that goes beyond the split between the two, the good and the bad, the up and the down, the love and the hate. And if I can look at it from that, and then I can see unity, love, oneness, and I can look from there, and then it seems as if what before was a duality is actually contained within the one that always has been and is and will be as well. And then there is no, then if you perceive not from the reduced personhood, but from a broader view, then I feel you can you can have a different view at the same time, and one doesn't contradict the other one still, because both of them are reality, just looking from different point of views.
So you love those that you hate? Is that what you're saying?
Can you find love? I didn't say I hate anybody really, but if you say you hate somebody, is it possible that you find love for that person as well, or do you just hate an aspect that you know, or that you have that you have seen in that moment, in that point of time?
Yeah,
How
I
do we
think.
separate it though? Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I think there's, like the emphasis is on hating people because most of the time the messages that we get from advertising and news and everything is negative in nature. So in a lot of cases, we're being introduced to a lot of things that people hate, and really there's a lot of emphasis on that. And to a large degree, people are existing in a world in which they've got to kind of go through that minefield of negatives. And so then when it comes to love and the infinity of love that's potentially possible, they don't really realize any of it. They don't have a definition for most of it. They don't even have an expectation of what might be some positives out of uh, that kind of thing. And so to some degree, when I think of the false dichotomy of love and hate, I think of a giant overemphasis of hatred towards anything and everything, and a complete lack of understanding of the infinite potential of love.
If I can see that, and that is what really what keeps us entangled, right, in this reality, what keeps us in the matrix, if you want to, the the extremes on both ends, like let's say the extreme pleasure, and on the other side the extreme low, or let's say
Loathing.
emotional high, emotional low. Like what excites us on both ends of the scale is what really keeps us entangled and what keeps us caught in the matrix. And it's just like when you go to a movie and you watch a movie in the cinema, it's like the parts of the movie where you like you're down on your knees almost and crying your eyes out, or the ones where there's so much action, or so much I don't know, like joy and pleasure being perceived. And this is what really catches you. This is what in those moments you're like totally involved. You almost forget that you're sitting there. You're in the movie, you're in the screenplay. Wow, you identify with the hero, with the heroine, that are also set up in front of us to exactly do that, and you're in the play. And if you and not to say that it's wrong, because obviously we have been given the capacity on our emotional scale, on the emotional plane and on the intellectual plane, on all the planes, like to express ourselves in within that framework. So it's certainly it seems logic that we utilize it also. But if we get overwhelmed, and if we get too entangled in it, and if you forget that we are in a play, that we are actually watching a movie, then we even might forget to enjoy the movie, because then it's not us who can detach and say, okay, wow, this is it's too much violence, or no, this is too much, and think, oh, it's like you if you identify with it too much, then you forget that you're actually watching a movie, and then you think you're in the movie, and then you become the movie, and then you become the guy who's portraying God knows who, and then you don't like the movie or the game takes you over, and you forget that you actually have the reins in your hand, and then you can call stop, then you can call halt, and that you even have the potential to influence the movie. Because what if you are actually the actor, you are the crowd, you're the stage, you're the director, you're all of that at the same time. You cannot you cannot perceive that or be in that consciousness if you identify only with one actor, or only with the director, only with the crowd, and you think you're only that. But if you can surpass that, and even for a moment just assume that you might be all of that, even the stage, even the surrounding environment, you're all of that as well. That is all part of the consciousness of that I said love, of that isness, of that beingness. Then from that perception, if you're rooted in that, then okay, you're perceiving from different angles, and you have the opportunity to change those perspectives. You can look at it from the crowd, you can look at it from the director, you can perceive it from the actor who is in the play. So wow, that's amazing. If you don't only identify with one tiny part of it, with one perspective, but you can choose, then you have the choice, and then it becomes a joy. But if you have that limited perspective, through personality, through personhood, you will only see it through that lens. And then if it's a joyful movie, oh, it's great, it's fantastic. But if it's like a war movie, or if it's something, then you're gonna suffer through it, and you won't see how to come out of it, or how to you know be how to be not so entangled that you can take yourself out of it as well, detach from that.
I think that's similar to the idea of a scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset too. That kind of lack of understanding of the abundance, the potential of any particular thing. Uh, for the most part, people that are haters are the ones that see the world as the scarcity, where if if you take mine, then I don't have any. So it's me or you. It's dog eat dog.
And then why would you hate somebody or something? It's a really strong expression of an emotion, right? So if it is that the outside reflects what's on the inside, then maybe it's worth looking exactly at what you hate, at what aspect, at what reminded you of something. Is that person, is that circumstance reminding you of something that was triggering something within you, in the past, or within your subconscious or your consciousness? Or is it, what does it trigger inside of you? Is it something that's just showing you up there's something to be resolved, that's something to be worked through on your own inside? And is it possible to work that out, whether it's you by yourself, or with help with other people? And so that then the pointer in the outside world, in the outside reality, can then pass on, and the next lesson, the next challenge of life will come up? Or is it something that frees you, that brings you joy, to hate somebody, to hate something?
Definitely don't think it brings you joy. But what I was wondering. Shoot, I lost my thought.
You were talking about abundance and scarcity before.
I was going to ask Willow something about the kind of that uh, something to do with the idea of hatred, but hmm, it's not coming to me. I'm sorry. Someone
So
else,
good.
go ahead.
Trying to remember when last I hated something or somebody. How that
I
felt.
hated my Russian teacher in high school.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
now we can.
Yes.
Okay, because I was just talking and like everyone just kept going with the conversation. I'm like, can anyone hear me? Am I here?
It didn't connect
Um,
right away.
okay. I was gonna say something about because you, Mike, were saying something along the lines of you didn't know if hating someone would hating something would bring someone joy. And I think you are correct. It does not bring you joy, but it does give you a sense of action, of feeling alive, feeling something intensely, which can often be confused for feeling alive and feeling a sense of joy, so to say. I wouldn't say it's exactly that it is joy, but it's probably as close to um, a sense of contentment with action. Like they have, when you're hating on someone or something, you're putting effort into showing how much you disapprove of that. And that can often feel very safe for a lot of people, really. There's no specific kind of person or experience that would cause that.
Yeah.
Especially if it gets you in on the group with the group, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. One thing,
So
some
that's kind of
lady,
the positive.
there was this lady I knew once, and she said that if you really hate something about somebody, it's usually the thing that's already inside you. And and I was very uncomfortable with that statement for a very long time.
I used to be very uncomfortable with that statement until I realized that it's not that you embody that trait. It's that you have probably often struggled with that trait and you struggle really hard not to be that person. And so to watch someone else walk around doing the thing that you try so hard not to do, it's almost like a slap in the face. It almost diminishes your effort that you put into being the good person or the right person. Um, and it feels
But
as if your
sometimes
effort
it's
is
like a
invalidated.
sometimes it's like a redirection, right? Like, oh, I'm not a racist. I would never be racist. Oh, but I just hate, whatever, women who are red, and it's the same thing, but in a different incarnation. So it bothers them that someone is racist, like, and they're actively bothered by it. But when you look deeply inside them, there's already that judgment that's, towards other people based on trivial things.
Well, the reason I actually have experience with this, I used to have an issue with young girls who would kind of play dumb.
I used to do
And
that.
I used to as well. And still, if you put me in a really awkward position and I don't know how to get out of it, and I know there's no other way to get out of this situation, sometimes I will, um, because it's a familiar coping mechanism. But when I watch young girls, I've noticed this is actually a common thing with like the older generation when they start to realize that there are young women um, playing those roles and they never allowed themselves to do so, they get very, very irritated. When they have worked so hard not to be that girl, seeing that girl is very triggering. And I've even come across it and I've had to take a step back and say, why does this person bother me so much? Why am I so irritated with their behavior?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that isn't that a good indicator though of something that you need to work on when you're uh, when you're hating on something, isn't that really a big question mark?
It's usually for me, and most of my clients that I have dealt with, it's usually a defensive coping mechanism. It's like I said before, it's taking a little bit of action and putting yourself on the other side of that line that's been drawn so that and everyone else knows that you're on the side that condemns that, whatever it may be.
What about the irrational hate that goes on where people are programmed to hate somebody that they've never even met? So it's if you're a politician or you're political, it's the other side of the political thing. If you're from a particular country, it's the other country that is antagonizing you or something. If it's there's just like if it's your sports team, it's the other sports team that is that beat you the last time or whatever. There's just a multitude of irrational things to hate, and people just really relish.
Or everybody who wears a red skirt afternoon. Like before noon, red skirts are totally fine, but afternoon, so annoying.
Is that something natural that comes to us naturally, or is that something that has been installed in us?
I think it's
I would
a
say it's
natural
installed.
reaction to fear. But the
Fear of
fear
what?
is installed. I don't know. It could be
I
fear of
don't
a lot of
really
things.
have an issue with red skirts, by the way. I'm just making shit up.
Well, animals feel fear, right? They will run away if they're frightened. But would you say they are um, racist, or they are, or they're,
Gazelle, you're racist against that rhino. Or lion.
I think racist
are
would
they
be,
hateful? Do they feel hate?
I'd say they could feel hateful. They hold a grudge. I've seen animals do this. Actually, our dog used to do this. He had a bad interaction with a pit bull, and he also had a negative interaction with a husky. And from that point on, he hated them. He didn't
What
want any dog that looked like that. He didn't want anything to do with. He would get really aggressive with them.
what's the difference
So I
between
would
anger,
say
rage, and hate?
I think they're just different levels of the same feeling.
What's yours, Dennis?
Hmm. I like I definitely agree with what you said earlier, Willow, about you know, and you were referring to hate before, that there's an energy there, and for me, if we see anger, rage, hate like as a scale, and months ago we came across that emotional scale, right? And even if they're way low, they are still above apathy, or deep depression, or like almost suicide, where there's the energy is even lower. So depending on where you were before, to be on a to be angry, or to be um
Raging.
enraged and raging, that might actually be above from where you're coming from. So it's always like, it depends on
Maybe it's an
where you're coming
improvement.
from. Yeah, it might be an improvement from where you were yesterday or so. And it
That's
certainly, there's
actually an
energy to it. Because
that's a natural
go on.
so that's a natural progression for when trauma survivors come out of depression, when they finally start to acknowledge the things that have happened to them. Uh, I tell them there's going to be an angry phase, and it's going to come almost like it might fluctuate for different people, but a lot of times it comes right after that depression, because then they start feeling something and they don't know what to feel, and they don't want to feel the sadness, they don't want to feel the really deep emotions like how it affected them, so they go straight to anger because that feels better than the sadness that might lead them back into depression.
Hmm. And to go back, I don't well my feeling is that animals, like animals and natures, I don't think they I don't I don't feel like they hate. Anger and rage, yeah. But for like in Jamaica, people would say bad mind. To have a bad mind, or to like, to see an animal, like like a human being, like sitting there and like being hateful towards somebody. So like, I don't see an animal being like that. That's something else. That's something for me that I associate that with the mind. It's a thing of the mind. So and like in Jamaica, we say bad mind. So if you put your bad mind on somebody, then then that's something, you know that's
But
like
I
an
don't
action
know.
that you're taking, right? That's
I
like a
think I've
mental thing.
seen animals do that. Like my dog has a fear of big brown dogs, not big tan dogs or not big gray dogs, but big brown dogs specifically. And she will be very sort of skittish and stuff with darker colored dogs than lighter colored dogs.
Oh my God, racist! You got a racist dog. I can't believe this.
I
You're
think she
admitting
just
it.
had a bad experience.
So yeah, so
I
where's
think
the
she
difference
had a
then?
bad experience with a brown dog, not a bad dog because there's no bad dogs, but she had she was in the situation in a shelter in Mexico, whatever, and so yeah, she might have had a bad experience with a brown dog, but I don't know if that means she hates brown dogs or she just afraid of them.
Yeah, that would be my question too. Like, what is then the difference, between not liking, or being afraid of, or being scared of, and hating. I think there's a different quality to hate itself. Mm.
But what about those cats who sit in the corner and just watch you like this? No?
I
I,
don't think there's any hate there.
maybe they're just chilling. Maybe they
Or they're
just want to be
plotting
left
against
alone.
you.
Yeah.
Or they're plotting against, you know, manipulating the election with their mind.
It's definitely
I
very
thought we were not going to say anything about that. Damn it.
We're not. Sorry.
it's definitely very difficult to be hateful towards someone or anyone or anything, if you perceive yourself as no different from everything else around you. Then it's like straight, hurting yourself. It's like, I don't know, knocking your toe with a hammer, you know forgetting that the toe is actually connected to you.
Well, we've had a very long discussion on false dichotomy of love and hate. But we're actually
So
almost out of
long.
time at this point.
We're going to come back on
So,
Wednesday, and Dennis is going to host again, so we're not going to have any troubles.
and well, does anybody want to take anything away from this? I know it
Because,
was a short one, but
Dennis said that we're all one, so it doesn't matter if he hosts or if I host.
well, it's just it's good to have you back, Agnieszka.
Yes,
Thank
so
you.
glad.
Despite your inability to get shit done.
I'm sorry, my laptop's not holding up very well with the OBS, but we'll work on it. We'll find a different way, and I can host again. But I think for the foreseeable future, maybe Dennis will be gracious enough to host, and that way we won't have any problems.
Little did you know, Dennis, you were going to be hosting everything now.
There we go. Well, what I'm taking from today is that I think the title is accurate, that it says a false dichotomy, because it is, I see it as a false dichotomy. So which does not mean that it's not also there and it has its relevance, from a certain viewpoint, but really and truly there's only one, and we can choose, and there's freedom in that, right? There's freedom of choice and the freedom of will that we have to choose our perspective, and to choose where we stand and how we look at things.
Yeah, I would just add to that the false dichotomy is essentially the overemphasis of that hatred, and certainly just the awareness that you're hating on something should suggest that there's something wrong that you should be examining. But on the other end, there's really an opportunity to love, and the potential of the love is so immense. But because we don't pay that much attention to it, and a lot of people don't, they're constantly stuck on that other side, and it's really a tragedy.
It's true, and it's your choice again, right? Because you could choose to focus on everything that makes the perceived other different from you, and that he or she does differently, and what makes him worth of being hated or not liked by you. But at the same time, you could also choose to focus on all those things, that unite you, and actually makes him similar or equal or like you. It's up to you on what you really focus, but you certainly will find wherever you look. So it's the question is, what are we looking for in life? What are we looking to find? Are we looking to what can we find in hate, and what can we find in love? And who's looking anyway?
I really don't like that you were like, what can we find? And I look over and I found the cockroach that was there earlier.
Is he at your feet?
Love it.
He's very close.
You've got this animal magnetism.
Well, on my right, there's a wonderful gecko running all over this window, and on my left, there is a giant palomino water bug, which just looks like a flying cockroach.
That's a good analogy for life.
Don't
hate. It depends where you turn your head. You can either
I don't
see
hate,
this sweet little
but I do
gecko,
feel disgust.
But why are you looking towards the cockroach instead of the gecko? You got the cute little gecko on your right, but you got the scary cockroach on the left, yet your head keeps going toward the...
Because I want to make sure it's not creeping up on me. See? Comes from fear.
Well, we've answered one important question today, so I think we can close it out at that and answer more important questions on Wednesday, when we will have less technical difficulties. Apologies once again to our listeners.
Thank you, everybody. Remember, we're on right around 5:35 p.m. Eastern time, Mondays and Wednesdays. Maybe not today, but hopefully on Wednesday we'll come back, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about this topic in a little bit different fashion. We're going to talk about another false dichotomy.
And thank you very much for the comments from Kelly. Just seeing them here, and from Shambhavi as well. Kelly was saying, love to all. Thanks for this. Very welcome, although it was short. Planned opposition, divide and conquered. Yeah, definitely. Conquering our minds, conquering us on every level. Saying that, there's division. Yeah, that rings true. Shambhavi sends a big
That's
heart.
great.
Thank you so
Oh,
much, everybody. And with that
thanks,
being
everybody.
said, looking forward to hearing you and seeing you again and talking to you on Wednesday. Kelly says again, great to see you all, no matter how late or technically difficult. Thanks much. Thank you, Kelly, for
Oh,
sticking with us even through that. Really
Come over
appreciate
to the
it.
house and say it to my face.
Okay.
Bye.
Love you guys. Bye bye.